Hey, welcome,
Hey,
my
hey,
crypto
baby.
comics compatriots. Welcome to the How To series. I'm your host, Matt, aka I'm Scott Russell, and tonight we're actually going to be learning how to lay out your comic book. Our guest for tonight, the one and only Spectacular Stache. How you doing?
Feeling spectacular, baby, of course. And I hope you're doing great, Fonz. What's up, baby?
Holy cow, we already got the chat blowing up. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you get that reminder whenever we go live. It would also be extremely helpful if you could share out the video as well. Don't forget to chime in on chat. We love to hear from you guys, and we'd love to get your questions. So, should we actually jump into chat real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. We got Rose Kirby. So, hi, did I win the trivia? I get the 2 points for answer 6. And how many points did I get? So, we are getting so many submissions as of right now that right now, yes, Rose, you won. But we're going to keep it going till Friday and issue another award then. So yeah, we're actually going to get 2 off of this one. So
Excellent.
let me see.
Congratulations.
Nobody's Illusion says hello. How's everybody doing tonight? Oh, we're doing good. So we got Andrew, my boy. Yeah. Hey, Matt, and Spectacular One and only.
Andrew, my man. Yo, shout out to Andrew, baby. Your stuff's on the way. Thank you for your support.
Nice. That's awesome. Oh, and Andrew, when you get that, you got to take some pictures and shoot us over to us, or post it and tag us, whatever
Please
you got to
do.
do. So yeah.
Hope you like the stuff, baby.
Let's go, fellas. We're ready for the wisdom of the stash. Yes, we are.
Oh, and the Stache is ready to share his wisdom with the masses.
Yeah. Oh, dude, your energy, I love it. I love it. Love having you on here.
Oh, just glad to be here. Hey, what else does the Stache have to do but share his wisdom and show the world how to create their own multiverses? The Stache has already accomplished this and created many multiverses, and he can show you how to create yours. That's right.
I love this. The hat is back, baby.
Oh, yeah. The sad cat is back, baby, and he doesn't even need a Wolverine appearance to bring the masses to him. It's the Stache. It's the Stache. And it's Flippy, the effing dachshund. Yo, Frank.
I do want to actually go into... You're making me cry.
You're going to have to buy some copies and save them from the Stache, is all I got to say. Because once they get created, I do whatever I want to with them. You know what I'm saying? You got to get yours. Got to get yours, all right? So where do we start this shindig? Matt Fonz Russell, my compadre in crime here. Let's show people how it's done.
All right. So, as I was saying before, we are going to go into how to lay out a comic book. Now, I can't wait for this because I always have a rough time when I'm actually writing it, like how to lay it out and everything. I try to put as much detail and stuff into the script as possible. But some artists like it some way, other artists like it different.
Yeah.
So I guess let's get into the first question. How do you break up your story, just with the flow, into just kind of a certain number of pages?
All right. Well, everybody likes dreams. Let's start it off by dreams. All right. Dreams are easy to follow. You forget them, after your first thing in the morning, though, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why you do a page layout. You have these snapshots, these pictures, these images that represent your story. And a page layout essentially is like a dream. And you know how your dreams, they're fascinating. Dreams are just snapshots. They just tell sometimes seemingly random stories, but then they come together and have lots of relevance and symbolism and blah blah blah. All right. Essentially, what you want to do is you want to figure out your story. And one way to do it is to think about dreams. I have a lot of my stories come from dreams. All right. And to put a story into a certain number of pages is like remembering a dream. And sometimes it's difficult to do, but if you can do it right, your page will come together. It will tell a story in itself. It'll have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, you've got splash pages, you've got dual pages, you've got people that just put one single image on a single page, 2 panels, 3 panels. There's all kinds of different ways to do it. So it's difficult to decide what the right approach is. So I feel your pain, and I've been where you are, and I know what it's like for everybody that goes through this process. One thing that's helpful for me is I create a page diagram, and it is simply a way to just take a notebook, a piece of paper, a page, a napkin. It doesn't matter. You can be sitting on the john, or you can be anywhere in a restaurant. I don't know why that transition came in, because it doesn't. In some ways it's a natural transition, but it's not what I meant to do, is paint that picture. But let's focus on that. That right there, you're eating, going to the John, creating comic books. There is a connection. All right, the napkins. That's right. Starving artists use napkins. It doesn't matter. Whatever you use. Your story is going to be a certain number of pages. Now, the way you determine how many pages your story is your publisher usually tells you. Your publisher will say, hey, usually it's a backup spot. I've got a certain number of pages. So I need you to create that number of pages story. So what you have to do is you have to figure out how to tell your story in that number of pages. It's a difficult process, is it not, my friend?
Oh, it's rough.
Well, here's how you do it.
Okay.
You take these ideas and you put them down on a page diagram. 20 pages is a standard comic book. All right. So on a page 1 through 20, it's easy. You just create a grid. This is what the Stache does. Each page represents a block of your story. And once you get that broken up into 20 pages, or 5 pages, or 3 pages, or whatever you have to work with, whatever your publisher tells you, you try to create that story in that number of pages. So that, in a nutshell, is essentially how you determine your story, your book is going to be a certain number of pages. Now, do you have any questions before I go on? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, not at all. I actually, I went and bought this book a long time ago for my kids. It has kind of layout examples. It's kind of hard to see.
Yes.
So I bought this and I was like, here, just use this when you're trying to lay out a comic. But I noticed that in the comic book kind of industry, there are a lot more complex panels. Yours in particular, like, here, let me show my screen. Let me see. Add to stream. There we go. All right. So if you come down here on your dashboard, you scroll down, you'll get to the featured creator. Just go ahead and click on the Stache. By the way, if you sign up right now by clicking this link, you're actually going to be helping support the Stache just by clicking the link.
Follow the Stache.
Yes, follow the Stache. All right, now, which comic? Here we go.
The first issue.
Yeah, the first issue. It was page 21 that I wanted to actually. Oh, I'm on 23. So
Kill
your
girls,
panel.
believe it or not. Okay.
What was that?
Kill girls, believe it or not. Right.
Oh yeah, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So your panels, they're so cool and so kind of complex. Right here at the top of I guess this page 20. Sorry, it is 21.
Yeah,
Um,
you're right.
yeah, it there's an open panel. Um,
Ah.
there's no borders or anything like that, but right under it you have four panels that are, that have the borders. This last one kind of comes outside the border. Like, how do
Mm-hmm.
you decide what information goes into which panel and how to use the panel correctly?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. There is no right answer. Like comic books, to be honest with you, are an ancient form of communication. Sequential art is as old as the Egyptians, the Babylonians, and it's all about storytelling. In order to explain this, I have to go into background about Kill Girl. Girl is a character that is pretty much beyond the comic book world. She is the narrator of Metal Cult Comics. She is also, in many ways, the creator of that multiverse. Um, she is able to break the fourth wall, as it were, and communicate with you, the reader. And so I can play with the rules a little, bend them with that particular character. Now, a lot of creators will take liberties with that and they will work outside of the borders, work outside of the gutters. They'll have characters that can communicate with the reader. Um, Generally, these are tools that are used to identify with characters like Kill Girl, who are omnipresent. They are outside of the regular comic book realm. So if you'll notice, she's
Okay.
outside of the panels.
That
Does that make
actually
sense?
explains,
Yeah.
yeah, the next page. Let me show my screen again.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so
Yes.
this next page, she's actually holding the panels.
Yes, exactly. And you'll notice that she does the same thing throughout the series. Kill
Mhm.
Girl drives the narration of the story. She interjects herself at sometimes in interesting moments in the story and will expound upon the story and give you background details that the characters are completely unaware of, because throughout the entire medical comics series thus far, Kill Girl is an unknown. The characters are oblivious to her ability to manipulate their sometimes their thoughts and definitely their actions. So that is
Okay.
why that character is able to do those things. Now, other creators have different reasonings behind why they work outside the panels. Some creators are very, very strict about making sure that their panels and their borders contain the story, and some are more, mathematical, methodical, and strict with their dimensions. Medical comics, I pretty much bent or broken every rule that has to do with comic books creation or telling stories or connecting with a comic book audience. I'm really, really pleased that you guys, CryptoComics.com, have found a home for Metal Cult Comics and titles like it.
Well,
Really appreciate it.
so the one thing that I absolutely love about it is that you do kind of throw out the rules, and that really gives it that underground feel from like the early 90s and stuff like that, that just it brings you back, and it has all the layout, everything is just so unique, um, especially to the medical comics themselves. All right,
Thank you.
so I guess, what kind of training have you done in order to learn how to do this?
Okay, yeah. I have always been an artist. I've been drawing comic books for as long as I could hold a crayon or a pencil. And it's just something that I've always wanted to do. I was always if it were not for comic books, I would have never learned to read. much less create my own comic books or write my own books, novels. It was just it's something that I always had an ability to do. It's something that I had to work on for many years. Medical comics is really my first attempt at creating a comic book world, a series. And it was just really a promotional tool to try to promote and advertise my band, Cult of Dionysus. But it also gave me the ability to tell stories because that is what I really enjoy to do and was able to do with Medical Comics.
Speaking of your band, actually, I was listening to your band right before the show tonight. Let me see if I can find the link for it. Okay. Let me put that into chat. So you can actually right now go to metalcult.net and pick up your books. You can actually get the floppy version of Flippy. So
yes, get your own copy of Flippy the Dachshund #1 that I will not have touched. There are many copies of this book that go directly into a bag and board, just like this. And many of them are signed by my wife and I. We create the books together, and we do sign them if requested. But anyway.
Well, speaking of the last time you were holding that book, we did from Fry. Fry, he's been working his butt off, so gave him the night to kind of relax and recuperate and everything. So the first thing he does is get on chat.
This. So of course, yeah.
Thank you for all your hard work, Fry. Okay,
thank you.
So the reason I was bringing up the metalcult.net is your band. You actually have quite a few songs on there.
Yes, I do. I have
them before.
Thank you. Thank you. I have quite a few bands.
Really?
Quite a few songs. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which do you have some music that you'd like to play?
I don't have any that if I play it that well, let me see.
You don't have to. Don't worry, because the people can go to metalcult.net and all they need to go to is the music place. And like you said, there is a lot to choose from, a lot of different songs. I have YouTube videos. I have SoundCloud sound bites. You can go and you can purchase. You can stream, listen for free. You will be able to listen to the music of the Cult of Dionysus. Oh, look! Oh. I thought the Fry Man was taking the night off.
Somebody awfully close to the gray area for.
All right, we'll get back to. Thank you.
That being said, we have to actually get permission in order to play your audio beforehand.
I see. Yes, you have permission to play my audio now, in the future.
Okay.
And perhaps if you can go back in time, you may play it then as well.
All right. So during the spotlight, maybe we'll play a song. So
it's all good. Yeah, you might want a review of them because some of them are kind of growly, scary.
Not wrong with that at all.
Monstrous, even.
All right. So I guess back on topic, and I'm sorry for and everything.
No, Fry, it's good.
Take the night off. Go relax. Okay. How big should a panel be?
Okay. That really depends. Quite frankly, I just eyeball it. A lot of people use rulers and mathematical equations and put a lot of time and effort and thought into it. But I go back to dreams. And everybody focuses on dreams. If you can tell a story, if you can capture someone's imagination, they're going to allow a lot. You know what I'm saying? All you got to really do is get them to suspend belief long enough to dive into your image that you've created, your world that you've created. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So how do you write each individual panel in your script as if it's a snapshot instead of just a typical scene?
Okay, yeah, that's where the page diagram usually comes in handy because at that point, by the time I get to where I have decided, all right, I want to create panels for a page, I have a page diagram that tells me, okay, this person is going to arrive from the sky in panel A, and the next panel they're going to a rainbow appears from behind them, and then the next panel, so forth and so on. It's written down in the page diagram, so I just follow that.
Okay.
Usually I have that written in the page diagram. It's in my mind. I can figure out about how the page layout. This is from many, many hours of trial and error. That is essentially where this comes in handy.
Oh,
This,
let's get a close up on that. Ah,
let me see if I can do this. The before and after. You
that
see how
is
it works?
awesome. Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'll flip it over. Let's see if this works. It's the finished product. That's the back page,
Okay.
the back cover. Essentially, what I like to do, and I will give you an example of the aforementioned fabled
Oh, let
page
me go close on
diagram.
that.
Yeah.
Holy
Now,
cow.
this looks terrible because as I've gone through each page, I've marked it out to remind me I am almost done. Because let me tell you, to go from the beginning and end of a 20 to 24 to 32 page comic book is an exercise in patience, dedication, and love. It truly is. And I admire anybody that can get to the beginning and end of it, but you can do it. It is possible. A lot of people take time in purchasing Bristol board and going through the industry and having a major publisher publish their work. And that's great. If you do that, then you are one of the golden children. Ride it. Ride it for all it's worth. Take it. Enjoy it. DC, Marvel, Dark Horse, Image, you name one. If you are able to land work for them, more power to you. Use it. And be sure to use that experience that you gain with them to go back to the independent market and go bank. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Because ultimately, it comes down to this is it, truly, feeding yourself and your family. You're not always going to be able to do it with your comic books, but if you can, man, go for it. That's the dream, ain't it, baby? That's a
Well,
dream.
we have a question from a creator, Bazil. He's actually in Africa. So,
Yeah.
yeah, all over the world right now.
Wow. Wow.
Um,
I
any
don't know if
tips on how
Brazil.
to make? Oh, sorry.
I don't know if Brazil needs any tips from a stash. I think he's got it going on just fine by himself. I'll be glad to share whatever knowledge I have. Brazil. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, how do you actually direct the reader's eyes to a certain spot? So,
I try to make sure that every panel tells a story. Every page tells a story. There's something that you have a reason to turn the page, go to the next panel. It's like you want to create a cover that catches someone's eye, that sparks some reason for them to look beyond the cover and hit the splash page. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And then the first panel, the second power. The panel should, the page should lead the reader through the story to the end. There should be a beginning, a middle, and an end. Don't forget, from the very first part of the page, every panel is a flow from the beginning to the end. Cole, Plastic Man. Are you familiar with Cole's work? He created Plastic Man in the 1940s.
oh yeah,
If you go back and look at some of his work, Plastic Man flows through the panel, through the page. Seriously. And really, you got to look at comic book creators like Will Eisner. Will Eisner really knows how to create a panel and a page that flows. So I'm just going to round about. I got to be honest with you. The way that I have learned to create a page or a panel that is eye catching is I have studied what I would consider to be the masters. So Cole, Eisner, Crumb, Perez, Kirby, Ditko. I could go on and on. I'm talking about a bunch of guys. How about Wendy Penny? You know what I'm saying? Are you familiar with ElfQuest?
Oh, yeah.
Are you familiar with Neil the Horse? I'm talking about a bunch of guys
No,
and one woman.
not Neil the
All right.
Horse.
Well, that's somebody that is in between male and female. Neil the Horse, Arn Saba. These are all master creators of comic books. And if you're not familiar with them, now's the time to get familiar with them, because that's what the Stache did. That's how the Stache learned to create comic books. I went back to 1930s all the way up to the 1990s, and I watched what people were doing, and I'm familiar with what all the artists and the storytellers are doing. And I try to use what I know and create something authentic that hopefully connects with you. Yeah.
So what is, or is there kind of the most important part of a layout?
You got it. I'm going to keep going back to the story. Everybody talks about how do you create images? Well, you got to tell a story with your image. And even if you're a writer, well, you're writing images. You're writing a story with your mind. You're telling a story with your mind. It's all about communication. You're communicating something. A guy's just sitting there in a corner. Why? Why is he sitting there in a corner? Can you tell the despair on his face? Do you care? Do you care? Do you care? I'm telling you, man, in this day and age, you're really going to have a tough time keep people's attention, keeping it. Do I have your attention? Do I have your attention? Do I? Good. Now pay attention. Learn something. You can do this. My buddy Fonz, Scott Russell, you can do this. You can create comics. You can create an entire multiverse. The Stache did it. You can do it. It took me a decade. It takes time.
All right.
It takes months. It took this book right here, on average. You want to know how much time it takes to create a comic book? I'm just one guy. I write. I script it. I draw it. Page by page, panel by panel. See that? You recognize it?
Yeah.
It's just one drawing. It's this guy right here. Yeah. That's just one drawing. All right. Yeah. Okay. So every page tells a story. Every panel tells a story. And if you're successful at doing this, eventually you will communicate with someone. Like I said, it takes time. I created this book over 10 years ago, and it's just now catching on. It takes time. Don't give up. Don't be afraid. Don't give up. If you have something to say it. Don't wait. Get it out there. Tell a story. Don't waste time. 75 years, if we're lucky, we get here on planet Earth. And if you have something to say and you've been waiting to say it all your life, right now is the time. You can do it. I did it.
I love that.
It's not that hard. I'm telling you, it does take time. It takes about 3 months for me to create a comic book from beginning to end. I create the thing completely myself. I script it. I draw it. I create a PDF file, and I send it off to the publishers.
Okay.
And then is the fun part, because once you have a comic book, you have to sell it.
That's the rough part. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Nobody's Illusion comes on with another. It's a great question. Can I ask what you used to create your comics as a fellow physical artist? Pen types or brands you recommend?
Okay, you're going to have to figure out what your style is and what you want to use as and what you can afford to use, because there are this could be an entire show by itself. There are so many mediums to choose from. What the Stache uses is just a standard cheapo dollar store black gel ink pen, and I'm serious. That is it. A standard sketchbook and a black ink pen. And I generally go over and over and over it until it is really, really dark black, because that is the only way it's going to show up in print. Just remember, a lot of people make the mistake of perhaps creating something that is fantastic and beautiful, but is a little bit too light for print. And that's one thing that I wanted to talk about as well. And when you're talking about pen brands, types you recommend, there are so many. A good technical pen will allow you to create a really fine line where you get all the detail, and you can get the intricacies of a Todd McFarlane or a George Perez.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly the kind of thing the Stache stays away from, because it's too much work. It takes too much time. and really, there are so many great artists out there that have so much talent, and they will take hours and hours and hours and create the most beautiful renderings you've ever seen. And usually they will use a technical pen. There's lots of different ways you can do this. Don't be afraid to experiment. You'll find what works for you, and just go with it. Don't worry about what's the most expensive. Sometimes it really doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all.
So you said you use just a standard sketch pad and stuff like that.
I do. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All of these pages here are from Metal Cult Comics Special number 2.
Oh.
These are all standard page sketch pad pieces, and every single page is a panel.
Okay.
For those of you who are familiar with the story, you may recognize some of these. I'll try to pick out what I would consider to be, hopefully, an iconic. There's a classic battle scene. That took me some time to do. I'm not saying I'm friggin' George Perez or effing Todd McFarlane or anything like that. But what I will say is I enjoyed creating that little scene there. And that scene is a part of Thundrazoid and the Planet of Beer. Let's see if I can just find it real quick. Excuse me for not knowing my own work. There it is. And so, as you can see, another thing of a page layout. This is a very important aspect to stay on topic. Is your page layout is essentially going to determine, what's on the page, how much space you have to work with. Because if you have all of this incredible, intricate artwork that you want to share, and you're telling stories with your pictures, and you have something to say with your picture, and then somebody comes in and they put all of this text over all of that intricate line work that you did, and it took you hours to do that. Nobody's ever even going to see that. So what you really want to do is use the page layout. And let me go back to that real quick. Is you use the page layout to help you determine where the parameters are and how much space you have to work with and where the letters are going to go. And
Okay.
I don't know how to tell you how important it is to be able to work as a team. The Stache is a one-man wrecking crew of comic book alchemy. I can create this stuff from out of thin air all day long. I was born to do this stuff. I can tell you where the words on the page are going to go, how it's going to flow from back to front. And that is why I create this page right here, because then all I have to do, once I have the entire page diagram, the sketchbook completed, all I have to do is go page by page, panel by panel, until every single piece of artwork is finished. And then I can scan it all in and start with the creation of the digital pages. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
That's how important the page layout is, because before I bother to even put the time and effort into putting the comic book together and creating the artwork for the comic, I have to know that the flow of the story is going to be right. I have to be able to read this thing over and over again myself and be entertained before I'm going to share it with anybody else. And once I know it's got to that point, I'm ready to move on. Then it's a done deal. That's how important it is.
Okay. All right, so let's see. The next question we have, is there a particular page size he lays out on all the panels? So
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That is where Exhibit A is going to come in. People typically go with the American print size is 6.63 by 10.24.
Okay.
I think that you had that laid out for me.
Yep.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Oh man, that doesn't really show up.
It's not going to show up. It's not going to show up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. But what I wanted to point out is essentially what we were going to talk about is the proper page formatting, the paper size, the aspect ratio, the bleed, the crop area. What I wanted to point out with that particular template that I use to create comic books, see, when people get to a point where they're going to have a page layout and they've got the artwork completed for a comic book, usually they'll have a standard formatting tool that they use to know where the bleed lines are, where the cut lines are. So they don't have any text or any artwork going outside of the cut line in the bleed area. So you got to have a little bit of area where there's bleed, and you got to have a definite line where you know the cut's going to take place, so that everything in your story takes place inside those lines. And whether you're working with a publisher or you're doing it like the Stache and you're doing it on your own, you use a template, and the template that I shared with you has the lines that you'll need so that you can place your panels appropriately and know that when you send your book off to the printers, that your PDF file already has the bleed lines and the cut lines in consideration. So the publisher, all it has to do is its job, and it creates the book, sends it right to you, and you can work on how to sell your book.
Okay.
Or give them away to your friends. Whatever you want to do, you know, creating stories is more than about making money. Let's be real.
I'm not sure who this is, but Facebook user, whoever you are, you haven't given StreamYard's permission to
thank you,
use your name and stuff. But yeah, so many good tips here. So much respect. Yeah, amen to that.
Let's keep it rolling. What else you guys want to know, man? I'm glad to share whatever knowledge I have to help people create comics.
All right. So I noticed with Metal Cult Comics versus Flippy, there is a distinct style difference. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so right here, we see that there's a lot going on. Now, let me go to Flippy real quick.
Yeah, this is a good question, and I'm happy to answer it. Definitely an obvious difference.
So right here, yeah, it's there's bigger wording. For it almost seems like for more of a younger audience, there's kind of less detail in each individual image, and it's just kind of laid out a lot simpler. Is that a stylistic choice, or was that just kind of how it ended up happening? How does that how do you change up your layout, I guess, for that particular audience?
Yeah, that is a complete stylistic choice. My wife and I create the book together, and she
Hmm.
writes the stories. And let's see if I can come up with an example here real quick. Um, Sometimes my wife does the layouts. Jerry Lynn, she does the layouts for these books, and we work on them together. And there's definitely a stylistic change with the writing. It is intended for small children, and we wanted to have something that we could offer to small children who want to learn to read, like I did, using comic books. And maybe these kids don't have any incentive to want to learn to read, but they can take these flippy comic books and they can color them, and you can read them with them. And this is an example of a layout that my wife did for how she thought that Flippy 2 cover should go. And I thought it was wonderful. I loved it. I definitely used it. I did my own version of it. As you can see, the finished product is a little bit different. But the concept. I want to show you again. You see how cool this is? It's a little bit different. The layout had the same idea, but I decided to do it just a little bit different from a more center perspective for whatever reason. It doesn't even really make sense. But it works. Okay, it's a cover. It attracts kids. Kids love it. All right, they love it. That's all that matters.
I love that.
And that's what this was meant to do. It was meant to be a comic book for kids. Kids can easily go through it and read it. Their parents, their grandparents can read it with them
Not
and
just
color it.
kids. I gotta say, I love it. Flippy's fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Flippy
Thank
is
you.
flippin'
Thank you.
fun. All right.
Thank you. Flippy, it is very strange. I get it. It's so strange that a guy would go from creating medical comics, you've read both of them, so you know how
Oh yeah.
different medical comics is from Flippy. Yet Flippy transitions and is the star in many ways of both series. Now, she came in at the end, but Flippy really was one of the reasons why the book remains popular to this day.
Okay.
It's an example of how you can create a character that transcends the book, a series. I mean, let's face it, a lot of the best characters had their origins or their first appearance in a comic book that it was not their own title, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. And
Okay.
some creators, if they're smart, they can take their creation from publisher to publisher and continue to be financially successful doing it, and more power to them.
All right. So, I guess, do you like symmetry in your page layouts, or do you look at each page as just a standalone page?
I really want. I try to aim for every single page telling a story. I want it to flow. It's a struggle. If medical comics is really, if you want to know the truth, if someone wanted to read it from beginning to end thus far, um, I would look at it from the standpoint of someone who is learning to create comic books along the way. I've made so many mistakes, even after I've done page layouts. They're right there. They're glaring, but you learn from your mistakes, right? How do you learn if you are not able to make mistakes along the way, right?
True.
So I would encourage people to make mistakes and do things the wrong way, and for God's sakes, do it on the page layout. So when you get to the finished product, you've already uh, weeded that issue or that problem out. You've seen it for what it was. You've recognized it, and sometimes it's not easy to do that.
All right. So, everybody, we're about to wrap everything up, but before we do, we have something for you guys tonight. So, we already did one awesome giveaway. Now, what we're going to do is let me share my screen again. I don't know why it kicked me out of that. Okay. Oh, whoops. Add to stream. Geez, I thought I clicked it. Okay. So
You got
if
it.
you go to your dashboard, you scroll on down. Whoops, went too far till you get to my badges. And if you look in chat, tonight's badge code is Flippy. So let's see what that gets you. Ah.
Hell yeah.
We got the spectacular stash.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
All right, everybody. So go ahead and get your code. All right. Tonight's code is Flippy. All right. Well, that's all the questions we really have time for today. We'd like to thank you and thank our special guest, the Spectacular Stache, for this edition of Crypto Comics, the How-To series. Be sure to check out the Spectacular Stache by going to cryptocomics.com/u/spectacular stash. Follow him. You will love it. Check out his book. They're so
That's
awesome.
Right. What he said.
Again, yeah, you can buy the physical copies at metalcult.net. You will not be disappointed. Okay.
Yeah, hit me up on Facebook. You have any more questions? Feel free to ask. Stache is there. Thank you to Crypto Comics. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Once again, if you want to just stay after we end the broadcast, I just got some stuff I want to go over real quick with you guys. And until then, everybody, thanks for joining us and stay safe.